Sure.
So, what set you upon this path then? Like, what was your catalyst in a sense? Like, what was it a religious thing, a philosophical thing? Like, what?
I would say it's my failures.
Those are your failures.
Absolutely.
What would you say was one of those game-changing failures?
Finally being able to face the lie that I've been living for many years in my life, that everyone in my community had bought into, that had elevated me to a really significant position.
Okay.
Finally being able to face it and say, I could continue to live on false reputation that I've built and not really resonate with what that thing that I feel is really necessary for me, and that's to be transparent and honest with internal self and externally for everyone else to know, okay, this is what the real deal is here. So when I'm living a lie...
So it's a full, true expression of yourself.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
You don't even need to get into details. I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, I don't mind. Like I say, for me, this threshold of freedom that I experience has come at a significant cost where I had to face and say, yep, I'm willing to kiss all of this that I once thought was really meaningful goodbye, even though I really value it, for this purpose of gaining this over here. And part of my brand that I'm selling, if I'm selling anything,
sure,
is how to be able to be set free from whatever it is that holds us back, to be able to say, who are we truly and what are we really aiming for, and how can we learn to communicate that in a way where we're not fearing the censure of the society or community, but we're trying to calibrate with what makes sense to us as we progress in our own walk. Yeah, good questions.
You're an interesting fellow. What was your name again?
Biniam.
Biniam?
Biniam, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that was a very thoughtful response. Okay.
Thank you. I share it as freely as I do because I find it worthwhile to sort of do the heavy lifting in my mind first, try and sort it out, and then present it for scrutiny elsewhere. Not because I like being taken down, but because I think I'm bettered by others sort of saying, does this really hold, or are there some holes or gaps you have yet to address? And I think that's what really is the beauty of the marketplace of ideas, where we can offer our ideas and say, here's how it seems to make sense. So for my processes, I would say I'm driven by ideology. If the idea holds really well, I'll take it to the practical level and see how well it fleshes out in real life. And that's sort of the arena that I like playing in.
Are you religious in any sense, or are you more philosophical, or what's your link to spirituality?
I definitely grew up in a religious context. I grew up in a way where I also bought into it convictionally.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm there anymore, again, just by way of principle and conviction.
No, I'm very similar along those lines.
Yeah, I can tell by your name. And that was just a guess, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And I'm not sure I would even say now spiritual, just because I don't want to buy into things just because it's the mode. I want to understand for myself, what does that look like?
Yeah.
So since I've left my former faith of community and all that it entails in the way I participated in it, I haven't, in all honesty, had the chance to sit down with myself, just because life goes on and responsibilities and all the things I have to attend to. But it's still on my radar to be able to have that time, Isaiah, to sit with myself and say, given all the evolutions now that have happened since I left, where do I sit and where do I see my convictions evolving here? I don't know what that looks like yet, but in the meantime, it doesn't stop me from doing what you're doing, listening, asking questions, seeing how other people have got to where their destinations are. And I mean, with my
experimenting too, right?
Yeah, and I know with my background as well too, I have more precise tools that I use intellectually to find out some of the nitty-gritties that mean a lot for me in the context of understanding different perspectives, really.
Oh, this is wonderful, man. You're on the most beautiful journey there is. This is
indeed.
This reconstructing of this it's wonderful, because you just gotta learn from the whole world.
Sure.
There's not one thing that you can't learn from, and that's the beautiful thing about it, I find.
You can see why I enjoy my job now.
Yeah, no, and you can enjoy anything you really do.
I really have. I've done so many diverse things, and I was just making a video on it earlier saying there's been so many things that I've done along the way.
Yeah.
But here's the common theme that I found in all of it, and that's just what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
How to be able to have that sense of access to others that enables you to remember that you're not a big deal, and yet you're a big deal.
It's like humility, but also purpose, you know?
Yeah. The kind where you're able to calibrate and say, there are others who are like me from different vantage points, who have different angles that they were able to perceive and see.
Yeah.
What's it like to be able to, like you're saying, have that ability to hold your tongue and say, let me see if I can understand from a different perspective? That takes a lot of energy. Like, again, here you are exerting energy in this exchange here, where you're asking questions to try and understand, you're trying to process, you're trying to get to the point where you're like, okay, I think I see from your perspective, instead of just saying, here's what's on my radar, and that's about it, right? So yeah, nice work. I asked this question of one of my previous riders here, and I'd love to pose it to you as well.
Yeah.
What would you say, in your experience, is close to, what would you say is close for you to getting to the heart of your identity, your worth as a person, and your existence?
Can you say it again?
Sure. What would you say is the reason you exist? What is the thing that gives you worth? Or what is your identity?
Yeah, because those two are tied together.
I think they are too.
And like it kind of stems back to what I was saying earlier too. I guess I'll give you some more context.
Sure.
Like I was also raised religiously.
Yeah.
I lost faith when I was like 16.
Okay.
Became an atheist. You know, lost a lot of value and purpose in life. And lost my whole identity in a sense. And went depressed. And then after just like a lot, like honestly, I had so many different identity problems in knowing where I stood. It's gotten better the last like 2-3 years. I really worked on that. And the way I kind of frame it in my mind, I do these. I don't think it's one thing that gives me value or purpose in life. That's what I realized.
Okay.
Before I used to like all in on one thing. It's like, oh, it's this idea is why I survive, or like why I'm alive, or whatnot. And I realized that doesn't work. And instead, it's actually a combination of a lot of things. And what I've narrowed it down to was, it's if I can sustain these pillars, I can live a very fulfilling life, because that is my goal, to live a fulfilling life. So family being one of them. So putting priority over that. Passion. I'm really a big believer in passion and being passionate about something in life, whatever that might be. I'm very into boxing, so boxing's my passion. Then there is education, just making sure you're always educated on something. Then there is physical health, which ties into mental health.
Sure.
There's spirituality, just making sure I'm always just like questioning my purpose and not just being too stuck upon one
Speed
thing.
and red light camera in 300 meters. Speed limit is 50
yeah, like financial
kilometers per
prosperity
hour.
to a sense.
Speed and red light
Not to the point
camera
where it's
in
greed,
200
but to the point where it's
meters.
like I could
Speed limit is 50
live
kilometers
well
per
within my
hour.
means. And yeah, and like and friends also ties into family. And yeah, I'd say it's those are the biggest ones.
Okay.
And usually I tend to focus on a couple of them more than others sometimes of the month, or that's just, so life gets busy and chaotic sometimes, right? But I also have to meditate on just being mindful that all of them are very crucial.
Sure.
And that is what gives me purpose.
Okay.
Knowing that when I do have all those working together, I don't have to even say why my life has meaning. It just does. Like I feel it by the way I breathe.
Okay.
That'll be my answer. Yeah.
With permission, let me push back just a little bit. Let's say you lost the ability to have family, or you lost your ability to be into boxing, and all these other things you're mentioning that bring meaning and pleasure into your life. Would that diminish your worth?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
So your worth would still be there. Why would your worth still be there?
I chose these pillars.
Okay. Yeah, you chose these.
I chose them, right?
Right.
And if I choose them, I'm also aware that like they could go away. You
Sure.
know, I like to believe in the stoicism philosophy in the sense where just I got to be strong and reliable within myself,
Okay.
no matter what odds.
So then, if those are the ones you chose, but they may be taken away, because they can't be taken away.
For sure, yeah.
We're talking about how worth and identity are kind of wrapped up together. Would that change your identity?
Yeah, like let's say if I were to lose boxing, it would change my identity
Sure.
for a period of time.
Okay.
And it might be a transformation that I have to go through.
Okay.
But will it be long lasting to the point where I don't have any more value? I don't believe so. It just means I'd have to rework that frame. And that might be tough. That might be really tough. It might be months of confusion, years of confusion. Who knows?
Sure.
But I just always have a strong belief that I'll figure things out. Like that's just the inner stoic in me, where it's like I don't care how bad life gets. Like I will be able to figure this out.
I hear you.
So
That's a resolve there, isn't it? Yeah, no, I can relate to that resolve. One of the things I found as a takeaway for me, and in which I revel and also refresh myself constantly, is around this theme here. For example, I feel I'm a competent Uber driver. I do really well at my job. I get a lot of kudos for what I do. You know, a lot of people are like really appreciative of the work and the skill that I bring to my job. As much accolades as I get for that, I keep that away from my identity and my sense of worth for a reason. And then there's other areas where I really suck and I may drop the ball sometimes too. I keep also those failures and those disappointments far from my sense of worth or my identity, because when I think we're wired to almost say, hey, I feel like my worth is up here because